Hey listeners, Dan Harris here, host of the 10% Happier podcast. Imagine all your audio entertainment available in just one place. That's what the Audible app is all about. With Audible, you can always find the best of what you love or discover something new. Audible has an incredible selection of wellness titles and originals like The Light Podcast by Michelle Obama, Work It Out by Mel Robbins, and Confidence Gap by Russ Harris. Membership includes access to Audible Originals, podcasts, and tons of audiobooks that you can download or stream as much as you want. And as an Audible member, you can choose one title per month from an ever-growing catalog of titles to keep. The Audible app makes it easy to listen anytime, anywhere, whether you're traveling, working out, doing chores, wherever your day takes you. New members can try Audible now free for 30 days. Visit audible.com/Harris or text Harris to 500-500.
The weather is cooling down a bit. The leaves are starting to fall. Yes, it's that time of year again, football season. And we all know the best part of any game day traditions are the ones that involve food. There's nothing like having everyone in your game day crew coming together to bring their best bites and argue over whose family makes the best chili. And while there's no need to mess with the perfection of game day classics, like a freshly grilled Oscar Mayer hot dog topped with Heinz ketchup and mustard, it's always fun to step out of your comfort zone and get creative with your recipes. Because there's nothing more fun than adding to your list of game day traditions, like making a creamy and delectable queso dip with Velveeta cheese that can be eaten with so much more than just chips. Now is the chance for people across the nation to find out whose game day eats reign supreme. It's your turn to show off your tasty game day food traditions. Go to www.gamedayfoodtraditions.com to share a photo of your game day food tradition to enter to win $10,000. Once again, that's www.gamedayfoodtraditions.com to enter to win $10,000.
This is Full Change with Tom Laidlaw.
Hello, you're recording. I do it in Spanish.
Wow, that's your Spanish accent? Oh, Dios mío.
It's a combination of Irish and Scottish.
Wow.
And here's the funny thing, too. When I do it, like I actually believe that I'm really doing a Spanish accent. More so than an Irish accent. But I think it's more Scottish. And that is...
Oh, boy. But the thing that you believe it's not a surprise at all. Not even a little bit of surprise.
You know, it's funny that we get talking about stuff the way I act. And I guess I just never paid attention to myself before. I just continued to do it.
Yeah.
Plow through. We just aired the 50th show, and we talked about I listened to it. I was like, yeah, I guess that's how it really ended. Like
Plow Through.
Yeah.
Maybe we should change the name of the book to Plowing Through.
Could be.
Because you did work on a farm.
Yep. That's good. Wow. Good.
There you go. Plowing Through, not listening to anyone. Carl, that'd be like the subheading.
And I honestly didn't know that I didn't listen to anybody. Like, I really thought that I was a good communicator and everything. And now I realize, people say, Tom, you just don't listen to anybody.
Self-awareness is a wonderful thing.
God, it is funny. When I do try to listen to somebody else give me advice about how to do something,
sure,
I think I don't put my heart into it as much, so it doesn't work out. Because it's just not.
So you self-sabotage.
Yeah.
You sabotage their advice, so it's not.
I don't think I'm really trying to do it, but that's ultimately what happened.
Well, that's almost like probably every man the world who, when they get directions, say like, I'll listen to the first two words and then I'll just figure it out. Right?
I saw a woman do a video. She's very nice. She's a pretty woman. She's talking, I really love my husband a lot. But it just kind of annoys me that I always have to give him suggestions of what to do. Like, honey, can you give me a hug? Or can we go on a date night or whatever? She's asking these two men, they're a panel. And so she stops asking a question. Then the guy pauses for a second. He's pretty cool. He goes, you do understand you married a man. Right. He listens to about 25% of what you say. And he only grasps with 5% of that 25%. So like, it's just, that's the way men are.
But why is it? That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Like we just shut off like right away.
I don't want to be sexist here or misogynistic. That's a big word. Misogynist word. Women communicate differently than us, right?
Sure.
They may say something and really mean another thing, right? Or they'll say, if you think something's wrong with your partner, your wife, girlfriend may say, are you okay, honey? She'll go, oh yeah, I'm okay. Well, in the meantime, she's not okay. But as a man, when you hear her say she's okay,
so women are more creative, more as men are more straightforward to the point.
Yes.
Okay, so compare that to like shopping. I'm sure you don't like shopping.
No.
So I don't either. I want to get out of there. Christine wants to browse, look around, and see things. I'm like, let's get what we eat. Let's go home.
Yeah, cool.
Have the list executed. So maybe that's part of it. Now, who knows? But today, this is an exciting day for us because we're launching into some new shows that are hockey adjacent, but not really hockey stories. It's just different, interesting people. We had mentioned we're going to do this, and today's the first one. I know you have a You have a rabid, I don't want to say fan base, but you have a rabid collection of friends that you talk to on your regular podcast.
Yep.
Some cool people like Barry Shelley.
Yeah, very fantastic man. He's a veteran. He was military police. Met Barry, great story, really emotional story. I first got started online, social media stuff, and he had contacted me, I think on Facebook, asking if he could send me something, I think it was something to sign. I said, sure, people do that all the time. I gave him my address to send it to. He sent it. I sent it back to him, signed. And I think his wife contacted me at that point. He was really emotional about it.
Huh.
He was crying. I didn't know. He sent me, I still have it, his military patch that he wore on his uniform.
Oh, wow.
For his whole career. And I think, Barry, you don't have to do this. But in his mind, he had to do it. He wanted to do it. And he's been what a great friend, great follower. But he's done a lot of things. So our other Mark Putnick that we do a show with, he's got the New Jersey Warriors,
yep.
All veterans. And Barry set up a thing up in Cooperstown, New York, where he had the team come up and put on a whole bunch of events. And he's done so many other things. We had Bill Brown, the retired Navy SEAL, was on the other day, and he called out Barry Shelley because he was seeing all the stuff he was doing for veterans, which was a real honor for Barry. So yeah, Barry Shelley's fantastic. Ira Matthew.
You have Deb. Deb is on there. Deb's always sharing our posts. We appreciate that.
Deb is, Tracy Marie. She's always starting trouble on our shows.
We have our Selly Salt women. Those guys are great.
Callan and Pam Mahi-Ahi. Rod Jameson up in Buffalo, New York, another veteran.
Yeah. Hopefully they'll like what we're doing because we're doing different stories now. It's not just hockey. We have a great one on today.
So Larry Melnick and I think we've got to be better buddies. We played together with the Rangers and we were partners. But we've got to be better friends after we communicate with each other, make fun of each other. And he's been on a lot of our shows. Very, very entertaining guy.
Great episode with us. He did a great one.
So I've got this thing with him. So you ever see like on Facebook and Instagram, people will post like, what's the name of your favorite movie of all time? So on everything that people ask, I write Larry Melnick.
Okay.
So it's become
so you're just tagging him in everything.
Yes. So it's totally stupid. It's like a bad dad joke, right? It's just it goes on and on forever. So when it doesn't matter. Or if they say what's 3 words, so I'll separate his name so it goes 3 words, but it's still
right. Larry Mel, and because you're just a ball buster.
And people love it because it's just consistent. It's just not necessarily even that funny, really. It's just that
you're just plowing through. But the point is that Larry's a good sport, and he's
he's coming in for our golf tournament, the Ranger golf tournament. That's become a topic of conversation too.
Oh, you got him in? Oh, nice.
Well, yeah. So here's the deal, though. Too, I'm going to give him a hard time because last year I got him invited, and then he canceled the plans right for the event.
Ooh.
So you say you're coming, Larry, but we'll see what really happens here. So now we have a lot of great followers, a lot of fun. We have a group of people that really. They get engaged in the show. When I do the Thursday show at 10 o'clock by myself, it's actually in some ways better because they can get more engaged. I answer their questions.
A lot of give and take, a lot of back and forth. Hopefully they're listening to this show, leaving us reviews and enjoying. We have guests. But today we're going to go away from hockey. We have Rob Burnett,
executive producer.
I think he created the show Ed, which was a good show set in New Jersey too. They filmed it at a bowling alley in New York. There.
You know why he's a great guy to have on? Like, our full change when we're talking about particularly hockey players, but all athletes. We talk a lot about how did you get success?
Sure.
What did you do as a kid? Same thing for Rob, really. He tells a story about him. He's a very successful man. Real passionate guy, too. He's not the greatest hockey player in the world, but he loves hockey.
Yeah, which is great. And a lot of these stories are going to be just people telling their stories, which are interesting. We want to hear that because it's, we hear a lot of hockey stories and they're great and we love hockey, obviously. Yeah. But it's also cool to hear other people, how they became successful, like or not successful or failed and, overcame that failure.
So it is true. Like the people and it doesn't have to be just because you're successful, like, making money or whatever, just people in general that have, maybe you're a good parent or you hold down a good job. How do you get to that point? So yeah, it's interesting listening to little stories.
Yeah, hopefully people enjoy this one. This is Rob Burnett. Good morning, Tom. Today we have on a Jersey guy, so I'm hyped up already. We have a television legend and a big hockey fan. We have former executive producer of The Late Show with David Letterman, Rob Burnett.
Oh, this is exciting. So this is the first venture outside the sports world. Well, actually, you're inside the sports world because you got the Burnett Hockey League here in Greenwich, Connecticut. Rob Burnett, old buddy, good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while.
See you, Tom. Yes, it's great to be here. Very exciting for me. There's moments, and you probably have moments like this in your life because I think there's an overlap of show business and sports in a certain way where I'm guessing for you, when you were, a kid, you were watching, certain guys play hockey, and then lo and behold, you probably overlap with those guys, right? You're playing with those guys. You're like, this is crazy, right?
I know. I'm not totally good.
I've had that experience in show business where, suddenly I'm, working for David Letterman or, directing Steve Martin in a bit or whatever. But this is a small version of that because I used to watch you play, hockey when you're a little bit older than I am. I think I was in just maybe college when you were playing. It's like 80, right? When you joined the Rangers, am I right about that?
Exactly, 1980, yeah.
Yeah, so I used to watch you. So when I get the email, Tom Laidlaw wants me on his podcast, I just go right back to being an 18-year-old kid going, how crazy is this that Tom Laidlaw even knows who I am, let alone wants to speak to me?
No, you're famous, dude. You're famous up here. The Burnett Hockey League. So he's Rob's got this league where he plays a rink in his backyard. The guys all switch around from team to team, right?
Wait, hold on. Backyard rink?
Back it up a little. This is great. I guess I'm used to that. Yeah. So he's got a beautiful, I should be careful, beautiful backyard rink. He's got a stone building there that used as the changing room or dressing room. So he invited myself and Brandon Shanahan. They have the championship game. It's at night. The lights are on. He's got the food truck, cheerleaders, filming the whole thing. That was a blast.
Wait, we got a backyard rink with lights and food trucks and music.
This man doesn't do it halfway.
Wow. Here's how I'll describe it. Every single thing about my hockey league, the uniforms, the skate girls, the hot dog truck, everything about it is A+, except for what's actually going on the ice. That's ridiculous. It's just watching, 60-year-old guys skating around. But, here's a little, let me just go right into this. Brendan Shanahan is the only NHL guy to actually play in a BHL game. He played once with us. I made him play goalie. And he said to me, I saw him a couple months ago at a party, and he said to me, he goes, "You're not going to believe this." It was probably 10 years ago. He goes, "You're not going to believe this. I learned something about hockey at your hockey league." I said, "Brendan, that's impossible for you to learn anything in my hockey league." And he said, "No, it's the first time I ever played goalie." And what he described was, he goes, "I notice when guys are screening me, if they're right next to me, I can see around them. But if they're 3 feet away, I can't see around them." And he tells me, I now tell, Matthews and Marner to stand away from the goalie. I say, if you win the cup on a screen, I'm getting a ring. That's it.
There you go. Your name on that cup. You better get your name on that cup. Yeah, absolutely. So you're a Jersey boy. You're from New Jersey. Whereabouts?
I am from Jersey. Yes.
The best people are from Jersey, Tom. You know that.
There's, you know what? Jersey and Canadians, there's a similarity. There's a grit there. The Jersey guys are just louder. That's all. That's the only thing.
Good. So you went to school in New Jersey and everything. Did you go to college there as well, or where'd you go?
No, I went to Tufts up in Boston.
Okay.
The quick version of my career. I always wanted to be in show business, a comedy writer guy. I had no connection to show business. My dad was a dentist. I had no idea how to go about it. So when I graduated college, I loaded up my car. I drove to Los Angeles, and I thought, well, that's where show business is. And sort of floundered around for a while. Wasn't really getting anywhere. Came back. I got a job for a newspaper in New Jersey. And that's when I sort of realized that I don't want to do that kind of writing. That was not kind of my thing. And then at one point, I sent some stuff into the David Letterman show. It was a year out of college, and I sent in some writing materials. They said they didn't have any writing spots, but they had these internships. So I applied, and I got an internship at the Late Show. This was 1985, about a year out of college, and amazingly sort of got hired, and then worked my way up, and then eventually became a writer on the show. And then when I was 29, they made me the head writer, which I thought was insane. And then eventually became the executive producer and a partner with Dave in our production company, Worldwide Paths. I was there for 29 years in all.
Yeah. Wow. When you say lucky, but you obviously have to work pretty hard to do that, though, right? I mean, you get that creative mind, do you?
Yeah. I mean, I was it's funny. It's interesting for me. In college, high school, college, during academics, I never was overly focused. I played soccer in college. That was sort of a big deal for me. I just never really, I did fine. I did well enough. Tufts is a great school. I did well enough to get in there, and I certainly, didn't fail or anything like that. But I never kind of had that last piece there, because I think for me, I never understood how that was going to get me to where I wanted to go. You know what I mean? Like if I wanted to be a lawyer, then I think I would have gone nuts at Tufts, because then you got to get into a great law school. but I didn't know how this was going to lead to show business. And the minute I got at the Letterman show, the second I got that internship, it's just that moment where you just thought, well, this is exactly where I want to be.
Right.
And I was kind of surprised in my early days there because I thought, well, everyone's going to want a job here, all the interns. And the interns were kind of screwing off mostly. And I just thought, no, like I'm going to be, this is the low hanging fruit, right? I'm going to be the first one in, last one to leave, and that's kind of what it had always been for me. I really wanted it so badly. I'm sure there's some similarity to what it takes to become a professional hockey player as well in a different realm. But for me in my 20s, people were going out, they were drinking, they were going to bar. I did a little of that, but not so much. I was very focused. I used to get up at like 5:30 in the morning and meet a buddy of mine from college, and we're writing a movie, and then I'd get to Letterman at 10, leave there at 9 p.m. and get back to Brooklyn on a 45-minute subway at 11 and do it again. And that's what my 20s were. And it's kind of sometimes I think that's what it takes,
That's interesting in the entertainment world. There's really no path, right? Like nobody's there to tell you, okay, you got to go play in this league and they play in another league. Right. For us, it was kind of easier for us because we knew, okay, you play junior, they play college, you get drafted, all these different things happen to you. So that's interesting. Yeah. Wow. So it was just grinding out.
And there's it's funny because a lot, I'm of the age now where a lot of my friends have kids that want to get into show business. So I'm constantly, kind of trying to give people advice and such. And it's really interesting because sports, I think, and I've said this to them, sports is a meritocracy. You know what I mean? Like, I think that, if you could throw a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, you're going to probably find your way to the pros, right? I mean, if that's kind of set up that way, I'm sure there's some personalities involved because humans are humans, but by and large, there's a system there, right? It's like, you're playing whatever the sport is, you're here, you're minors, and then it kind of comes up. Show business seems like that, but it is not that. You know what I mean? Like, because it's so subjective, first of all, and it's, it's all pockets of people and who knows who and where you are at a certain point. And the best way I could say it is that, I was an intern on our show. I became the executive producer. Was I the best person in the world? Was I, Connor McDavid? Probably not. I just knew the people, you know what I mean? And I became very effective at knowing that particular space and that particular job. And yes, I have some ability without a doubt. You're not going to be able to just be there. And, it's not like, working at Macy's or something. You know what I mean? So there's a little bit of both, but you have to kind of get in the room and kind of, get yourself to go where you're going,
Right. So did you become pretty close friends with David Letterman then?
Yeah, we were really close. During the, we were, yes. I mean, sort of like war buddies in a way, I was at the show at a very kind of critical time. I became the head writer in 1992, which was our last year at NBC. And then to the extent anyone remembers any of this, it was, a very big hubbub when they gave Jay Leno the Tonight Show and then Dave left to go to CBS, and we started our own show at CBS. And at the time, like in retrospect, it felt like, oh yeah, of course we were successful. But at the time, we had no idea. We had no idea if the show was going to work at 11:30. It was in a giant theater, not in, we used to shoot in Studio 6A, which was I think like about 150 people. Now we're shooting a giant theater with 460 people, which is really different. And I was the head writer at the time. It was really the kind of the key position on that show. So, Dave and I were together every day. And the other thing that was rare about that was that normally when you're doing a talk show, it's a very punishing schedule where, you're doing these every single day. You don't have that much time. Here, we went off the air in June and we started at CBS in August. So we had the only time ever, like 2 months. And Dave and I were out every day shooting stuff to prepare for CBS. And when we got there, we came out of the gates, pretty well. There was those shows were pretty strong. So
but obviously he ad libs a little bit, but basically you're writing the script for him that he follows.
I mean, first of all, Dave is an extremely funny person, and he's not. the things that are written on the show, you kind of know are written, right? The way the show is divided up, not to get too much into the weeds, is that the show is in acts. Right. And, there were essentially 3 acts that were writers' acts. 2 acts were, 2 or 3 acts, depending on the show, were guest acts. And then there would be some music at the end. So, we would write up, when he's doing jokes at the monologue, those are written jokes. Obviously, when he's doing a top 10 list, he's reading jokes. Right. But he's ad-libbing all night long. I mean, completely. And even with the guests, the guests do a pre-interview with our segment producer. They might go over stuff and, hey, Tom, what'd you do on your vacation? First of all, we have researchers that research stuff about you, so they know, you took a trip and you got stuck in a plane or whatever your thing, and the segment might ask that. So going in, Dave will have notes, and then he'll know, ask Tom how his summer was, and Tom will tell you the crazy story about how he got stuck on a plane. But within that, Dave, he may go off that. There are times where you look at that blue sheet with the questions and he didn't do one of them. Oh, you mean? So they and those are usually the best interviews that go off in their own way. So yeah, he's very much was very much in charge of what was said there.
Also, I think Rob's kind of downplaying it. When they left, there was like the late night wars. It was a huge deal. When you guys game planned that, were you like, we're taking a big risk here? Or how did you feel?
Yeah, it was a big risk. I mean, I wasn't so much in the middle of that decision, to be honest, because I was, I wasn't yet in kind of a I wasn't an executive producer yet of the show, so I was still the head writer. But yeah, it was definitely a risk. But I think for Dave, we did a year at 12:30 after Leno at 11:30, and I think it just didn't feel good. I think it was just that thing where Dave was ready for the next step, and it probably should have been the Tonight Show, but Jay got it, and it ended up being a huge blessing because Dave was in a very rare position there where everybody wanted him. CBS had no late night franchise. They were running movies at, ABC had Nightline for a half hour, but didn't have an entertainment franchise. And there was huge money at stakes. I mean, these shows, because of the quantity and the volume, you're on the air 5 nights a week, and they're relatively cheap to produce compared to other other scripted shows. Because you just shoot them. They're sort of like live to tape, you know what I mean? So you just shoot them at an hour, you're done. These shows are worth, $150, $200 million to the network. So there were people bidding like crazy for Dave. And as a result, were we the only ones and probably the last to ever, no one now, we owned our show. Now the networks all own these shows. We owned ours. So it was and we owned the 12:30 show after ours, which we, put Craig Kilborn in, and then Craig Ferguson, and then of course we produced Everybody Loves Raymond. I did a show called Ed that was on NBC for 4 years. So we had a whole production company that was kind of given life by all of those circumstances. But yes, the short answer is yeah, it was a big risk. It was a big risk, but I think it was a risk that Dave had to take.
$150 to $200 million per show?
No, for the year, I would say.
Oh, Jesus, gotta say,
there's a lot of shows out there on 5 nights a week.
Yeah, I mean, if you just think about it, in the rough numbers of it, I think our ads at the peak would go for about 40,000 for 30 seconds, and 14, 15 minutes of ads, 500,000, a show times 5 is 2.5 million. You start doing the math, and then there's also the owned and operated stations by the network that they own some of the affiliates, so they're getting local ads as well. Anyway, it's a big number. There's a lot at stake, and it was definitely a scary time, but it was a super exciting time. It was really fun.
But Rob, you're a big hockey guy, obviously. You were responsible probably for all the hockey guests, all those shows. No appearance for Laidlaw?
I knew where you're going.
That's so charming. Come on.
That would have been a big hit, that show, yeah. Oh, I got to ask, it's a real serious question. We have to get the answer to this. Who was it? Was it Jodie Foster that flashed him? David Letterman?
No, it was Drew Barrymore.
Drew Barrymore. That's God.
Yeah.
Did you guys get any vaccine pictures like you're?
Here we go.
I was on the wrong side of that flash, unfortunately.
What prompted all that? Like, I can't remember what. I loved watching that show. I can't remember why she did that. Was there some reason?
It's Drew. She's great. She's the perfect guest. She's fantastic. She's She comes to play. She's in the right spirit, and I think it was something out of, I don't know how that came up exactly, but anyway, she went for it. It was fantastic. It was really good.
Rob, another great guest, and I worked years ago for Howard Stern, and I think Dave kind of launched Howard's career with all those appearances early on, and there were some great appearances.
Yeah, Howard was a phenomenal guest, and yeah, I think Dave. I mean, I think it's generous to say that he launched Howard's career, but I think Dave was a very early supporter. Howard was in the building at NBC and was doing very interesting stuff, and Dave would have him on, and I do think it was definitely helpful to Howard, but I think Howard would have found his way with it without us, but. Howard was always a great guest, and one of the few guests, by the way, that would really move the needle on ratings. Like, you really found when he was on, maybe because he had his own radio show that was massive, that he would be talking it up. But no, Howard. There's a handful of guests that are of Howard's stature that understand, and I think sometimes it helps if you are a host of your own show, although some are not. Like Tom Hanks comes to mind, Steve Martin, Bill Murray, Martin Short. There's sort of a handful of these people that understand when they come on our show, they're doing a show. And I was always extremely impressed with Howard that, this guy doesn't, at some point, he doesn't need us. He's huge, but he really cared about how he performed on our show. He was very prepared. And then sometimes you get these, the super, amazing 25-year-old actor kid, who's everybody's talking about and everyone wants to see it. He sits there and he's got nothing because he doesn't get that, you just made your movie, but this is our movie now. Like, now you're on our, this is our thing, so bring something. And Howard, always brought something. He was just really one of the best guests ever. For sure.
All right. So one guest, you get to pick one guest that you liked the most, both based on the ratings, how funny they were. Who'd that guest be?
Well, Howard would be up there for sure, as we're talking about him. But I think for me, maybe it was Steve Martin, because Steve would he first of all, he's a comedy legend, right? So that's that thing. Whenever I was around that guy, I kind of kept just pinching myself. I can't believe I'm around Steve Martin, because he's at the age where I used to watch him when I was really pretty young. You know what I mean?
Right.
And but what was great about Steve was that he would come sometimes 2 or 3 days in advance with an idea, or sometimes we would have an idea, and we would prepare and we would shoot stuff. And there were things that I made with Steve that my favorite, I have some footage, some B-roll footage of me directing David Letterman and Steve Martin. And there's this one moment that I just treasure where the two of them were sitting, we were doing some piece with them, and I was directing it, and both of them are sitting there, and I'm telling them what to do. And I'm completely in the zone and focused, right? It's the same thing for when you were playing against your idols. At some point, you're just playing hockey, right? We can't admire them for too long because it's hockey, right? But in a moment, you can step back and go, holy crap, I just checked whoever that was.
Sure.
And this was my moment where I'm sitting there talking to these guys, completely focused, trying to get what we need. And you see David Letterman and Steve Martin sitting on a bench, looking up, going like this.
Sure.
And someone was shooting it for some reason. It wasn't part of the piece. And that footage means so much to me. You just look, it's just that out of body experience that you're looking at.
That's cool.
Yeah. Like, who am I that these two guys are
I know
me right now? You know?
I know, yeah.
Well, that's like when you thought you're getting your autograph from your idol.
Well, I'm just going to tell a story where my second game in the league, I shot the puck in my own net the first night, and then we're playing. Yeah, John Davis was in net up in Boston. I was just, I had a great training camp. I felt great about myself. Thinking, geez, I'm in the NHL, but I haven't been told to get a place yet. So I go to shoot around the back of the net. I hit J.D.'s leg. J.D. looks at me to the mask there. And it's like, oh, the worst feeling in the world.
So the next game, he cheap shots a guy.
Well, next game we go up to
Sucker
Toronto.
punch.
We go up to Toronto, and this Robert Card butt ended me, and yeah,
No, he didn't. He didn't butt end him.
Well, he did.
He got his way a little bit.
So I sucker him, knocked him out cold. And Daryl Sittler, who, same thing, I'd watched him play. I grew up around Toronto, and he was a legend there in Toronto. So he's coming over to where he's like kind of avenge his teammate, right? And I was thinking to myself, I got to get his autograph. That's my thought process. I had to shake my head like, whoa, come on, let's go, get with it here. We can get the scrap going on. And it's funny to have that feel. I can imagine how you're feeling with those two guys. So, I mean, obviously Steve Martin, Howard Stern. Who would be the one guest that maybe they weren't the funniest, but they just it was unbelievable that you were in their presence? Like, is it a president of the United States or anybody at all?
Well, yeah, I would say Obama for sure. Yeah, when you're shaking a president's hand, especially Obama, he just had such a kind of he just seemed like a rock star as a president. You know what I mean? From politics aside, just as a guy, the way he presented, you know what I mean? He was really impressive. So yeah, I think he was definitely up there. I mean, everyone kind of runs through there. You know what I mean? So, there definitely have been some moments. Well, Julia Roberts was always a great,
Sure.
one of my favorite Julia Roberts moments. I kind of got to know her a little bit over the years. She was always a phenomenal guest and so great. And I remember, I think it might have been her last appearance. I remember I would go to say hi to the guest before the show. I went up to the dressing room. And she was excited to see me. She's like, "Oh, oh, hey, hi." And she was like in the middle. She had a towel like wrapped her. She was like, she's getting makeup, but she hadn't put her dress on yet, so she had a towel on. So she stood up to give me a hug, and she's like, "Oh, I better make sure this." She goes, "I don't want this to fall off." And I just said, "That makes one of us."
Yeah.
But she was a sweetheart. There was Tom Hanks also was an amazingly nice person. George Clooney was George Clooney is, I think, one of the nicest celebrities I've ever met. And it's funny, when I was taking my oldest daughter, Sydney, on a college, where we're looking at colleges, we get on a train to go from New York, from Connecticut down to Washington. We're on the Acela Express. And I'm sitting there and I look up and here's George Clooney's walking by, because I think he went down to get himself arrested at one point years ago at the embassy or something. And he's on this train. And I look up, "Hey, George," and we knew each other a bit. And he's like, "Hey, Rob, how you doing?" And this guy, he's, "What are you doing?" I go, I'm my daughter's going to look at schools. This guy, George Clooney, stood in the aisle, and talked to my daughter for 20 minutes.
That's cool. I like hearing that stuff. Yeah, that's cool.
I mean, amazing, to the point where I told her when we went to visit the college, I'm like, "You understand, you're never going to see George Clooney again. Don't let that influence your decision. That's never going to happen again. It's a once in a lifetime." But that's George. He's and my experience has been, and it's not 100% across the board, but I think the longer it takes someone to become famous, the better it is for them. George bounced around for a long time. He was like in his 30s before he got ER and started becoming George Clooney. And then he's trying to frown.
Minor league baseball player too, right?
Yeah. And he, and he did a bunch of pilots, and I've actually met George before, right as ER was starting. I was doing a show in LA and he was at a party, and he was a friend of a friend, and he was super nice. But I think that, the longer it takes you, where some of these kids, 20 pop, it's like, it's too much for them. And George Clooney also, I think, had the benefit, and he has said this in interviews, his aunt was Rosemary Clooney, who was a gigantic star before my time, but he, I think, got to see kind of this and this. And I think he just has a perspective on that where he's just like, yeah, this is all temporary. It's all, just put it all in perspective. It's all great. But, people, does anyone know who Clark Gable is anymore?
I don't. Yeah. There you go.
I don't.
John Wayne. John Wayne,
biggest human alive, and now, we're all versions of that. So keep your head on your shoulders.
Well, Rob, you've mentioned who you liked. Which guest, aside from Tom Laidlaw, did you try to get and just wouldn't come on the show? Like, who was out there? Who was the white whale for you guys that you couldn't get?
Oh God.
I don't think anybody, right? Wasn't Dave that popular that you guys are?
A lot. There were definitely a few, like Tiger Woods, for example, wouldn't come on the show.
Oh,
well, know why? I know he was one. There were definitely pockets of some people kind of aligned themselves with the Tonight Show a little bit, with Leno. Some would do both, and some, a lot that aligned with us and wouldn't do Che, because they just really love Dave. But Tiger comes to mind as someone that we really wanted, and he just would never.
You had Wayne Gretzky on the show, didn't you?
Yes, we had Wayne,
Cool.
for sure. In fact, here's a really small tidbit for late show nerds will love this, but
I get it.
It makes perfect sense when I tell you this. When we first went to CBS, we did what we call a shakedown show, literally just to test the equipment, right? No audience, just, we're just going to kind of run through things and just sort of see if everything works,
Yeah.
And so I played a guest on that show, and they said, well, who do you want to be? And I said, Wayne Gretzky.
What's Tom Laidlaw?
Well, I didn't want to get into legal trouble. I figured you were the great one would let it fly. And so, so I was Wayne Gretzky on the show.
That's good.
Yeah.
Speaking of the late show nerds, what was the deal with the Crispin Glover interview? Was that real? Did he kind of snap, or was that?
I think he was just trying to be funny. That he lost his mind. He was like, kicking at Dave, and I think Dave was legitimately scared that the kid was going to kick him. The other one along those lines that was pretty crazy was, did you see the Farrah Fawcett show when she was on? She came on. Here's one of those things we're talking about of kind of running into, your angles, and a little strong for Farrah, but if Farrah Fawcett was, if you do them, I was 14 probably when that Farrah Fawcett poster came out, right? Oh, yeah. The big one for the pinup poster that became super popular. So you can kind of do the math on that. A 14-year-old boy, that poster, that's all you need to say. So Farrah Fawcett comes on the show, and she is out of her mind. She's just, first of all, she's late. She shows up to the point where I am trying to reformat the show as we're going, because I don't know if she's going to show up, but she does show up, and she's just like this, and she's looking around, whatever. And this became a huge press event. So I'm being interviewed afterwards, and I'm taking Farrah's side because that just feels like the right thing to do. And I said, listen, they said, was she on drugs? I said, no, I think she was just trying to be funny. I didn't really see her before the show, whatever. So that happens. The next night, I'm in my office at midnight. The phone rings, and it's Farrah. And I'm just like, okay, hello. And I think she's calling me to thank me for sticking up for her in the press. I'm like, oh, this is very nice. She's going to say like, well, I really appreciate that. Well, she gets on the phone with me and begins talking to me for an hour, and it was less coherent than anything that happened on the actual show. And I'm sitting there, and the only thing I remember from this conversation was her telling me that she's going to Al Pacino's castle. I don't know what that is. But this was the reverse of what we're talking about, because if you'd ever told me that at 14, I'd be in my office alone on the phone with Farrah Fawcett, all I want to do is get home to my wife. No, you're nuts.
So when some of those moments happen and you're backstage, are you just cringing? Like you think, how are we going to get out of this? Like somebody's just totally out of control.
And you love that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Exactly. Oh. Right. It kind of, it's a really interesting thing when you're in that, you're in this, our reality is the theater, and sometimes it's easy to kind of forget that the thing's going out to millions of people because you're just focused on that space. And then every once in a while you realize you're not sure, and as it's happening, I remember Madonna was a big one also. She came out and she was cursing.
That's right. Didn't they argue all the time too?
Dave, yeah. Actually, he just kept using the F word and the F word and the F word. And Dave weirdly is, he's from Indiana and he's kind of old fashioned a little bit in that way. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't happy about her cursing nonstop because he just feels like I'm broadcasting a show and this is going on CBS and, it's the Tiffany network and people shouldn't be using the F word. And I remember going up to her dressing room after the show. She was surrounded by her people. This all had just happened. And no, you don't know at that point what that's going to become. In my mind, I just thought, this is going to become, and it was gigantic. It exploded. It was in every newspaper across the country. And so to your point, at some point that there's a fine line between cringing or something great is happening here for us. The cringy part really is usually if a guest just is not responding, a guest isn't playing ball, just giving you yes or no answers. And you just see Dave digging and digging, digging, that's when you start to, get the flop sweat a little bit, and you end up just, shortening the time and kind of moving on. But, that's the weird thing about talk shows is that, you put your heart and soul into them, and then you turn them over to somebody else for that time.
We had a moment, we were doing a live podcast. It was myself, Ron Greshner, Dave Maloney, Rod Dugan might have been on as well. We had Phil Zito on as a guest.
Espo is the greatest. Here's the funny thing. I turned on the radio. This was several years ago, and I was not aware that Espo was doing color for Tampa.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I turn on the radio, and I'm listening to the Tampa broadcast, and I'm hearing this guy, and I don't recognize Phil's voice, but I'm hearing this guy, and I'm just like, I've never heard color commentary like this. This feels like it's a guy sitting in his living room drinking beer, watching the game, and he's just saying stuff like, that's ridiculous. This guy's not speeding up the ice. This guy shouldn't be in the NHL. I'm just like, and I could not turn it off. This is ugly. Yeah. And then I find out it's Espo. I'm like, oh, of course, it makes perfect sense. He's phenomenal. I mean,
he's that older gentleman now. Doesn't care at all. He's just gonna say whatever he wants to say.
Great.
Great. Definitely. So you're a big Ranger fan.
Gigantic Ranger fan, season ticket holder. I just gave up my season tickets a couple of years ago. I wasn't going enough, and my son is in college. We used to go all the time, but I still get there. But yes, I grew up as a Ranger fan. For some reason, I never played ice hockey growing up. It's a huge regret. We played street hockey, and if you see the BHL, you'll understand. Oh yeah, that guy never played. I literally never played hockey until I got my own rink. I had to get my own rink to let people play with me. That's the only way I can get into it.
Wow.
But I was out there at, age 40, learning how to do a hockey stop in my backyard. People are like, you built a rink and you know how to skate? I'm like, yeah. Well, now I've been playing, 4 days a week for 18 years. And I've gone from embarrassing to terrible. It's a huge upgrade.
Rob, you're still playing?
We still play. You should, our final now, I think it was like that when you came, Tom, but it's grown to the point now where we get 300 people that come to this.
We have to go.
We'll do a show there next. Yeah, we'll come. We'll do a show from there. Yeah,
absolutely.
But yeah, we had for some reason, my dad had season tickets to the Rangers, and we used to go. And when you're 8 years old and you go into the Garden, and it's, it's like nothing else, the Rangers and the Bruins and that place, and your whole body is vibrating.
Yeah.
Here's a little thing that was so amazing. We had good tickets. We were down back then. They were colored, so it was down in the Reds, which was like the load. And we sat right. The Rangers back then used to come in on center ice, and we were right by the railing. And after the pregame skate, the players, they'd flip some pucks up, and I always wanted to go down there to try to get a puck. But my dad wouldn't let me because there was a lot of jostling, and I was only 8. And I had the big Ranger jersey down to like my shins, and I'm standing there, and I just hang over the railing and watch the guys go through. And Walt Tkachuk, number 18, Walt Tkachuk, one day turns and hands me his stick, right?
Wow.
Hands me his stick, and I'm holding this thing, and I'm like, and no one even sees, like no one's looking. I'm like, and I literally cannot speak as I'm holding Walt Tkachuk.
That's cool.
And my dad is there, and he goes, "How'd you get that?" I was like, he gave it to me. He gave it. I had this stick, literally. I kept this stick everywhere, in every place I went, all the time. When I moved from New York City to Connecticut, the only thing I did not let movers touch.
Is that right? That's
took it with me. I had it in my office. I was doing a TV show called Ed out in Northvale, New Jersey. I had it hung up in my office so I could just see it during the moments of, when I had to write a 60-page script. I'm like, all right, what would Walt do? I'm looking at Walt's stick. And as at the last week of shows that we did there, someone stole Walt and Tkachuk.
No.
I was absolutely heartbroken. And my assistants were so sweet. They knew that I was really upset by this, and they tracked down Walt in like Manitoba, and Walt sent me another stick. So,
oh man, that's cool. That's a great story. That's fantastic.
it's not quite the same as the original, but still, but anyway, so yes, short answer. That's the best way I can convey to you. A giant Ranger fan.
Oh, yeah.
I was at every single game in '94, including Game 6, which was in Vancouver. I was in the Garden when you could pay $5 and watch it on the Jumbotron. I was at that one. And then, what was another crazy thing for me was then we had the guys, on the show. We had Messier, Leach, and Richter. And now I, of course, I know Richter and Messier. Now it's the Greenwich guys. I know them a little bit, but they were on the show. And then, so for me to, I had the cup in my hands, just, anyway, of all the things people always, what do you love best about the, show business? I'm like, I got to hold the Stanley Cup.
Nice. You know what's funny?
You held it more than Tom, though, actually.
Well, actually, the rule is if you're playing and you don't win it, you can't touch it. So finally, after I got in the agent business, I had a client, Warren Reichel, play for Colorado when they won it. So I had to wait till like 3:30 in the morning. They're all hammered. They got in the locker room, got my picture taken. But that's the first time I ever touched it too. Yeah.
It's funny. We wrote a bit for Mike. Mike Myers is a big hockey fan.
Yep.
Yeah. Huge Maple Leafs fan. And we wrote a bit for him. We had the cup on the premises for it may have been when the Devils won. We also had them. We had the cup then. Anyway, we wrote a bit with him with the cup, and he wouldn't touch the cup. He was like, I can't touch the cup because people in Toronto go crazy and whatever. Yeah,
that's true. You know, funny things. I don't know how it is for you at your home rink there. A lot of times when you're playing with a celebrity, a guy that owns the rink or whatever, the rest of the people all stay away from them. Like they'll let them take a breakaway and go in.
Yeah, like when Putin plays.
They don't do that with you?
Yeah. No, it looks no, because it may look like that because I'm moving so slowly. So, whereas our league is funny. There's no checking in our league. There's no checking and there's no slap shots, but there's plenty of contact. And as it gets toward the end, we have this very sort of complex playoff structure that I won't bore you with. But as it gets toward the end of February, everyone's playing for something, and it gets pretty intense. And then what's funny for us is that in our final, you take the ice, and I've never played sports. Even when I was playing college soccer, I was playing D3 college soccer. I never played a sport in front of 300 people. That you've played in front of thousands of people. But for us, to get on, to be skating around and there's 300 people cheering, like you feel it. You feel the nerve. You feel the legs. You just go crazy.
And you video the whole thing too, and you put music to it. It was pretty good.
We have to go.
Yeah,
we have to go up there this winter.
Definitely.
Please, it's the first weekend in March. I'll send you an email. You definitely.
Well, the reason I bring up about people getting out of the way, Bill Burr had done a Garden of Dreams, a Garden of Laughs, donated his time, but made some money. So they gave him a couple hours ice time in the middle of the week at the Madison Square Garden. They had a couple like myself and Brian Mullen come in to ski with him. And everybody's just getting out of his way. This is Bill Burr, he's really this hot guy now and everything. But had a great sense of humor. He was a big fan of Jay Miller. I played with Miller in L.A. Yeah. So he's giving me a hard time all the time. So I said, all right, that's it. I'm going to drop him. So I knocked him right on his ass. And the building went quietly. Tommy, what are you doing? He loved it. He thought it was fantastic. We're best buddies. We're not best buddies. We're friends now because I knocked him on his ass.
That is awesome. Well, another big moment I had was we at one point did something where we had a few of the Rangers shooting pucks at a camera. We were kind of doing these things where we had pitchers throw baseballs at the camera and try to break the camera. And then we had, Brian Leach was there. Can't remember who, maybe Messier, but it was definitely Leach. I remember being there. And anyway, and I wasn't head writer yet. I was just a writer on the show. But they let me go down to the Garden. We were there in the afternoon, and I'm on skates by myself at Madison Square Garden. And I cannot even tell you that. Yeah. I mean, the thrill of that is just, it's crazy. It's just crazy.
Yeah, we as when you're a player, like that the Ranger fans are diehard fans, but when you get out of the game now with stuff I'm doing and go out public, you really get a feel for how much it means. Like your Walt Kachuk story was, there's thousands of those stories with fans. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a Tom Laidlaw story out there somewhere. We have to find that one.
Actually, there is a story. It's actually kind of a sad story. We had us out taking gifts out to families who had lost children.
Did you get end the show on a downer?
It was actually, the family was kind of excited because I guess I worked at camp, and this one girl, I guess I was super nice to her or whatever. So my picture was up on her wall, and they lost her, and I can't remember, some disease or whatever. But they were very excited. It just worked out. It was just happenstance that I was there, and it was actually they were very happy about it. They lost their daughter a while before, so but yes.
No, but you have to be. I mean, I would think that just your style of play as a Ranger fan, your style of play, we just would take as many of you as possible.
Yeah, I didn't know that when I was playing, but I hear that now more and more. Yeah, like showing up every day.
This is all you want. You just give me a few more hard-nosed Canadians that can get it done. And you watch them this year, and you're like,
yeah,
we're starting to build some pieces. We got the goalie, right? We got some real skilled players, but what we don't have is we don't got enough of you. We need 1 or 2 or 3 hard-nosed Canadians that know how to get it done.
Yeah, it'd be nasty and ugly, and like even if you can't carry the puck, whatever, just go play hard.
Yeah, that's why at these charity events, Tom is just cross-checking people all over the place.
Yeah, we need guys that are. If I were GM of the Rangers, I go, would you put Bill Burr on his ass in a charity game? If not, we have no room for you.
Exactly. Well, listen, I know we haven't seen each other very much, but I totally admire you, not just because of your success, but how you got your success. When you tell that story about how you just showed up and worked hard all the time, you could come play for the Rangers for that mentality. So great to see you again, brother.
All right. Thanks a lot, Tom.
Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thanks for coming on, Rob.
Bye, Rob.
Okay, guys. Bye-bye. So Tom, executive producer of David Letterman Show, is a huge look at the story he told about how the Rangers influenced his life. I mean, that's the impact you guys have on these people. I don't know if you realize that.
Well, we said it on the show, I've started to realize, I do recognize it now, but when you're playing, I don't think you fully understand. You know that you have a big impact on all fans, whatever team you're cheering for. But later on that, we go out and do a lot of stuff in the community now. I meet a lot of fans. The stories they tell us, like what Rob told us with Wolkachuk and everything, it just, you don't fully understand what it means. Like you're just young and cocky at the time. You don't have that kind of perspective, do you, till after? No. Again, that there people, excited to see you all the time, get autographs. So, there's that level, but like, the stuff you hear now, and pretty touching stuff, like how long they've been season ticket holders, memories of their father and mother coming to games and all that. So and it gets same in every city, but the Ranger fans are diehard.
Do you ever turn down autographs?
No, I never have. No,
good.
No, I never. And I've never. I guess I've gone to shows where you get paid to do them, but I've never really done those. Even stuff like and no disrespect to other guys that do it, but they have these things called Cameo. Where you do videos. For me, it's like I found like even selfish for me. I spread more goodwill or more people going, "Wow, Laidlaw's a great guy," because particularly with military personnel and police, they're calling their kids are having birthdays, or whatever. So you do a 15-second video.
Yeah. Make someone's day. It's really cool.
Yeah, I've actually started now. Like when I go to an event, somebody said, "Well, my dad used to watch you play all the time." So someone let's do a video.
Yeah, you grab phones and you're like, "Hey, Uncle Jack, it's Tom Laidlaw here from the Rangers."
I really did it at the Pride Parade the other day. I guess the one woman that was there, the principal of her school, I was a big fan. So I said, "Hey, give me your phone." So we did that, and she said it was unbelievable. Like,
no, you did the whole school. Like, oh, no, that's awesome. Yeah, that's cool. And that was a great interview with Rob. And hopefully fans will like this new format where we talk to people who aren't necessarily hockey players, but are hockey adjacent, have hockey connections.
Yeah, successful people too. It won't be just all successful people, but
sure.
Rob's Casey certainly was.
People, great stories.
Yeah, great stories.
Thanks for listening.
All right, Grasshoppers, thank you for listening. We had a fantastic show. We'll see you next time.
Schwab Trading is now powered by Ameritrade to give you a new, elevated trading experience tailor-made for trader minds. Go deeper with Thinkorswim, the powerful award-winning trading platforms now at Schwab. Unlock support from the Trade Desk, our team of passionate traders who live and breathe trading like you do. And sharpen your skills with an expanding library of online education crafted just for traders. All designed to help you trade brilliantly. Learn more at schwab.com/trading.